Welcome to the Did Nothing Wrong podcast, where we try to cut through the noise and help you make sense of the chaotic information space around us. I'm Griff.
And I'm Jay McKenzie.
Robert Silverman is a freelance journalist in Brooklyn, New York. His work has appeared in the New York Times, ESPN, The Daily Beast, HuffPost, The Guardian, Vice Sports, Deadspin, The Outline, and more. His work on the far right is some of the most insightful and detailed around. We're huge fans of his writing, and we're thrilled to have him with us here today. If you like what you're hearing, please give us a rating and a review on the app that you're listening on. Be sure to subscribe at didnothingwrongpod.com to get our content straight into your inbox. All of our work is free, but we're extremely grateful for paid subscriptions and donations that ensure that we can keep doing this important work. Thank you. Robert, welcome to Did Nothing Wrong. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
No problem. So, Ollie Alexander's gotten himself in a little bit of trouble this week, it seems.
Again.
Who could have predicted this?
Who could have?
After the whole coup thing, I figured he would have straightened his act up and gotten on the straight and narrow, but I guess,
See what you did there.
Yeah, there was a joke there.
He's got himself in a little bit of hot water here. It came out yesterday. The Daily Dot is reporting that the Colorado police have opened up a case against him. Apparently, an investigation is going with regards to him soliciting some photos.
Yeah, from a 15-year-old.
15-year-old.
15-year-olds and 17-year-olds. There's someone dug up, and God bless all of the the former, like all the groypers and the far right hang-ons who are putting their investigative, let's call it, skills to use, digging up everything. There's a clip from a couple of years ago where someone was asking him about this, or maybe in 2022 even. It might have been last year, where someone is asking Ollie about getting photos. This has been, by the way, just to be clear, all of this gossip about Ollie Alexander has been around since 2015 or 2016, when he returned to like post TCOT hashtag prominence. And and anyway, so there's and all of them just are constantly appearing on each other's podcasts. I know that's pot calling kettle black, et cetera, talking constantly. But so there's the thing where someone says where he goes like, he basically says that it's not illegal to solicit explicit photos from someone who's 17 years old, and I'm like, yeah, it is, man. He's like, yo, you can say anything as long as they're 17. And I'm like, no, wrong, incorrect.
Number one, why do you know that? Sounds like a man who has done his research on that subject because he knew this was coming at some point.
The queen doth protest too much. It's
wow.
The lady. Is it the lady? Am I misquoting Hamlet? Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
We are not that highbrow, so don't worry about it.
Edward Taylor is gonna kick my ass for that. In any case, it's really fascinating to me the way this story has come out. Again, for those who don't spend a lot of time in far-right online circles, this may all seem as somewhat new and shocking, but it has been a kind of known unknown for a while in those same far-right circles that Ollie, was bisexual or is bisexual, or if he doesn't he doesn't feel like identifying in that way, has had sexual contact with men and women.
He has now admitted that he's bisexual. So just so that's out there. Yeah.
Just so that's clear. Yeah. I think is the way he put it in his apology notes app thing.
Struggled with same-sex attraction,
SSA.
I believe. SSA.
He didn't even say same-sex attraction. This is a thing that's huge, by the way, in Christian communities, that even saying the word same-sex attracted is somehow a bridge too far. And so you have to go with acronyms like SSA, which was what is in his email or his post-it note that he distributed to the world saying he has struggled with this. And of course, the hilarious thing is that while Milo Yiannopoulos didn't really I don't know if I want to say did the reporting on this, but has been, let's just say slowly but surely especially over the last month or two, has been posting information about Ali on Telegram. And why he's doing this goes back to the now aborted and apparently stillborn Yay for President campaign, which is why I was doing this. Do we want to get into the origin story? From what angle should we attack this? Because there are so many.
Well, let's talk about the idea of Yay 24, because it definitely seems to be, as you said, somewhat stillborn at this point. It was a very big push for a while on the part of all of these guys, and culminated in some really insane TV appearances on the part of Kanye West on various platforms.
And cost Kanye many, many, many millions of dollars, clearly. So Kanye West, he made noises about running for president in 2020. He also did the same. I think he even talked about it sort of in a tossed off kind of way in 2016. But in 2022, he decided, no, I'm going to take the plunge. And Kanye West is going to run for president under a platform of, I'm Kanye West and I'm running for president, I think is the best way to define it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There was no website. There were no policy positions to speak of. There was no campaign rollout. There was just simply him talking on various streaming platforms. And those conversations were increasingly dovetailing into straight up anti-Semitism and talks about. Can we mention a certain World War II era German leader?
We can.
Oh yes, go right ahead.
Right. Yeah, he was full on with Hitler did nothing wrong.
Yeah,
and it was all intermingled with these. Look, Kanye has a tracked history of struggling with. He described it as bipolar disorder with certain mental conditions, but this loggery extreme of information came out where there were Jews hiding under every single cover, and they were all out to get him, and somehow they were affiliated. In one interview, I think he said that the CIA had placed a plant within and had them working for the Gap, which I think that was the underlying principle of Operation Northwoods, if I remember my history correctly. There was someone working at the Gap, or it may have been Adidas, I may be misremembering, who didn't know anything about design and fashion. So it was clear that this person was CIA. And all of these forces were conspiring against him. He was claiming the IRS was targeting him. And in the midst of spouting all this just utterly hateful and ancient anti-Semitic nonsense, he got dropped by every corporate partner that he had, and which led to appearances with first on Tim Pool's nightly program,
which was remarkable that he managed to make.
It was amazing.
Tim Pool and Luke Rudkowski look kind of almost sort of reasonable.
I don't know if I'd call them reasonable. I just think, look, Tim Pool is not equipped to handle a confrontational interview.
Yeah.
The closest Tim Pool has ever gotten to a confrontational interview is the time that a rapper looked like he was going to beat him up on air.
To be clear, you have seen far, far too many hours of Tim Pool's content, and we salute you.
Very impressed.
How's your brain? How are your brain worms?
93% of it is fine. The 7% guacamole.
Starting to get a little smooth is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's quite smooth, creamy, and delicious than the parts that have been filled with endless Tim Pool broadcasts. But in any case, he goes on to, I don't know if I would call him, Tim Pool has never done, just a little background, Tim Pool does not do confrontational interviews. He does fawning interviews with everyone who appears on his show. This was the case starting from when he first launched his YouTube channel. So he was not prepared to confront this. He had it in his mind, I think, that he was going to make Kanye explain anti-Semitism. And by the power of logic and reason, once Kanye, we'll keep flipping back and forth. Once Ye saw the error of his ways, he would I don't know. It would prove to his audience that anti-Semitism was bad, or maybe he would get Kanye to change his mind or something. Who knows what Tim had in mind, but he does not have that skill set to do that. So Kanye steamrolls the entire interview and does, about a 20-minute version of the same rant that he's done everywhere. And it only comes to a point when he says, that starts talking about they won't let this happen. And you can practically see the 3 parentheses bracketed around they when he's saying it. So Kanye West, is they, and Tim, he does this in a moment when Tim is agreeing with him, because Tim doesn't have the skills to counter this very, very deranged and paranoid ranting that is coming out of Kanye. And so he's like, well, he starts to pivot to one of his pet topics, which is the media. And he says, the media is out to destroy you and slander you. And he says, they are out to destroy you and slander you. And first of all, that's just factually not true at all. But leaving that aside, Kanye doesn't like it just being they when referring to the media. Kanye wants Tim to say Ziyuden. He wants him to say Jews. He wants him to say Jews are trying to destroy you. And Tim, he doesn't say, no, that's wrong, you're a bigot. Tim says, well, that's identitarianism. And that's how Tim Pool sort of slithers out of actually confronting the racists and the far-right kooks that he brings onto his show and platforms every single night.
We only imply the bigotry around here. We never actually say it out loud. Come on, Kanye, what are you doing?
Right. Tim is trying to get to, his plan was to have a long conversation about the campaign, about the meeting with Donald Trump that had happened the week prior with Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos in attendance. And he wants to do this long thing. And then maybe for the after hours subscriber only portion of it, they can start talking about the perils of the Jews using the black as muscle to destroy whites. That you have to pay to get that. And Tim wants to get an hour and 40 minutes out of it. And then later he can rake up some more money by getting the nasty bits. I mean, Tim makes this very explicitly clear in his show that for the first 2 hours, he will more or less hew to YouTube's guidelines. And then if you pay extra, you get to see them say things like the vaccines are a globalist plot founded by Bill Gates to enact the UN's Climate Agenda 21, or, so that you will be living in a pod eating bugs and being happy, and Klaus Schwab is out to, ruin your life. And you'll get straight white nationalist Stormfront type propaganda on Tim Pool in like little bits and doses, but you have to wait for the extras to get there. I mean, Tim is still, by the way, he has switched to spouting some very serious, white nationalist drivel these days. His main thing that he says these days is that everyone should leave the cities, take their kids, homeschool them. By the way, you should also have many babies to repopulate this great country, because all those babies will then vote Republican because they're being homeschooled. It's basically Tim describing the oldest plans for how to build a white ethno-state without explicitly saying it. So I don't want to look like Tim is doing a good job of whitewashing the things that he says. It's not subtle. In any case, the interview with Kanye ends because Kanye clearly planned to walk out. He said 3 times, if you don't let me say exactly what I want, I will leave. Finally, when Tim says, maybe kind of, it's not a good idea to blame the Jews, you can just blame these Jews. That's it. Kanye walks out.
Yeah. Tim wants it to say the corporate press, and then you get the hint of who controls.
He wants to say the corporate press. He wants to say George Soros. He wants to say them with parentheses on it. And he understands. I mean, Tim has had, I'm trying to think of the number of anti-Semites that Tim has had on air and straight up white nationalists, like Jack Posobiec being practically a de facto guest host at one point. Gavin Wax has made multiple appearances, being very white nationalist connected to the New York Republican Club. Oh gosh, who else? Hotep Jesus has been on multiple instances. John Doyle has made an appearance. Isabel Moody, another, classic Jew hater, has made an appearance. He has, once Cassandra Fairbanks took over the booking duties for his show in the fall of 2022, the guests went, just veered. They took a right turn, a hard right turn. And Tim doesn't have any interest in vetting or learning about his guests. So
I was going to ask you about that, because even 2 years ago, he was trying to say that Trump supporters hate him, and he was still trying to be this kind of centrist, not all the way in.
We can go back to Ollie in a second, but Tim Pool, I wrote, we can include it maybe as a link in the pod, but if you'd like to read it, I have a long feature on Tim Pool and how he self-radicalized.
Just to be clear, your piece is like the definitive study of Tim Pool, so people should read it.
We used it a lot when we did our episode on him, so thank you. We are really... Wow.
Of course. It's the basic thesis is something that Becca Lewis says, which is in the story, which is that there's been, and especially in 2020 and 2021, when I was working on this, is that there's been a ton of research done on how online rabbit holes radicalize users. How, falling into a 4chan hole or a Reddit hole or a Discord hole or whatever will lead to radicalization by people consuming this. There is a lot less study done on audience capture, which is how the process of creating content on these platforms radicalizes the creators themselves. And that's the basic gist of the story, which is what were the market conditions and what were the forces that led Tim Pool down a path where he's gotten way, where he's, again, talking about like leaving the city and make sure you buy chickens, because when the hipster coffee shop residents are starving after the Civil War and come to your door, you will have a gun and be able to shoot them if they try to steal your chicken. How Tim Pool got to that place. But like a lot of it, I think, is guns. He got heavily into gun culture. I mean, he has said this himself, he is heavily armed. He has, in his compound in West Virginia, he has a serious armament. In addition to, he has said, armed guards on staff at all times. So Tim Pool right now is and his first sponsor was one of those like ready meal, like doomsday survival.
My Patriot Supply, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes, My Patriot Supply. Yeah. Code TimCast for an extra discount on the beef bourguignon and the mac and cheese. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tasty.
We've gotten a little afield, but in any case, going back to Kanye. So Kanye, after the Tim Pool visit, decides that more media, or Kanye's brain trust, which is Milo and Nick Fuentes, by the way, at this point, and Ali, have decided that going on InfoWars because Alex will just let him say whatever he wants.
Tim Pool is an NPC, and you're a real human being. So no one's ever heard of Tim Pool. You're the legend that is Alex Jones, and you were fighting on the front line, and now we're here with you. You got some other superheroes part of the Avenger movie fighting for Christ.
You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone, and Jewish people are not going to tell me you can love us, and you can love what we're doing to you with the contracts, and you can love what we're pushing with the pornography. But this guy that invented highways, invented the very microphone that I use as a musician, you can't say out loud that this person ever did anything good, and I'm done with that. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
Look,
I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis.
I don't think Hitler was a good guy. I get the Hugo Boss uniforms, amazing. But I mean, just because you're in love with the design, you're a designer. Can we just kind of say, like, you like the uniforms, but that's about it? There's a lot of things that I love about Hitler. A lot of things.
And the highlight for me of that show, of course, was that Kanye never took a full ski mask off while he was on, or a full-faced mask, a gimp mask, I guess. Right. I don't know.
It was wild.
Kept imitating Benjamin Netanyahu using whatever it was, a fly swatter, some kind of puppet.
It was a fishnet and a bottle of Yahoo chocolate drink.
Yes, and kept speaking in a sing-songy, hi.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
As a fan of Andy Kaufman, and even Marina Abramovich, not to get into like Pizzagate lore, but
no, you don't.
As an actual Marina Abramovich fan.
Oh, so of course you don't like them. Of course.
Yes.
Oh.
Look, I've done some light spirit cooking. What? It's not a big deal.
Oh God. How much children's blood have you
Oh,
had to
so
drink?
much for the tolerant left.
Oh, just marinating in a Danachrome over there, huh?
It's more of a digestif than anything else, let's be clear. The main course is far worse. In any case, so after the Alex Jones appearance, Kanye's political campaign, as it were, pretty much disappears. I'm not clear from the reporting that's been done, nor have I done any on my own. But basically, what it seems like happened, according to their various, posts on social media, is that there was a power struggle between Milo, Ali Alexander, Nick Fuentes, to a sort of somewhat lesser degree, Laura Loomer, also over who actually would be working on this campaign. And when I say working on the campaign, I mean getting to slurp deeply from the gravy train that is Kanye West paying for this stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Chief Minder.
Yeah, there was a fight between Milo, evidently, and Karen Joyner. Also, he billed Milo for $100,000 for consulting and various travel fees and something else. There was a question about what percentage of that constituted actual work. I think he only got something like 40 grand for his weekend just hanging out with Kanye. Meanwhile, this has somehow angered Ali Alexander, who feels like he should be the one leading this campaign and also presumably getting paid large sums of money to do absolutely nothing with this. Basically, there was a sugar daddy out handing out candy. And all of these people were desperate to be the one getting the most candy. And once they started figuring out a way to elbow each other out of the paint, Milo thought now was the best time to drop receipts once he'd been sort of lost favor with this world and the checks stopped coming. And that's when he started publishing all of these old, what appears to be some of them are on Signal, a bunch more were on Snapchat, others were, Telegram messages themselves, showing basically that Ali Alexander was using whatever position of authority he had and whatever clout he had in the far right movement to try to lure young men into hanging out with him, and then on a couple of occasions, as you mentioned, sending him nude photos while they were underage, it is grooming.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of you people who have been screaming "Okay, groomer" at every gay person within their orbit, or beer company, or library, or children's hospital that they can find. Guys, we found it. El Dorado. It's right there. This is the lost city of the Incas of groomers, and it is right in front. The call was coming from inside the house, guys. And now I believe that Ali has headed for the hills, or at least has stopped posting, and he's he's going to do what he always does when the fit hits the shan, which is run away until enough people forget, and then he'll pop back up on the horizon. This is the same thing that he did when he got busted. Again, the National Bloggers Club, I believe, was the name of his outfit that he was running in 2011, 2012. And he was accused of siphoning money from them also, and promising all these things to all these politicians. And then once the heat gets turned up, he went away. And with Trump, he started sort of bopping back into their orbit. So none of this is, this is all part of a pattern for Alexander. And for those who haven't watched any of his, say, Periscope broadcasts, which I'm raising my hand right now. I have watched those because I am a sicko. I am the sicko's meat incarnate. I will watch this stuff. I could have learned a foreign language in this time, multiple foreign languages. I could have developed skills. I could have learned.
You could have learned to code.
Weld and stuff, like things that would actually be valuable. It's crammed with this nonsense and
I know.
We absolutely feel you.
The 1995 Mets starting lineup, and none of it is worth a goddamn thing. Mistakes were made.
Okay, so you have watched Ali Alexander's Periscopes.
Sorry, I apologize. Sorry, Mom, I did it. Sorry, everybody. Sorry to all the people who believed in me. I did watch. I've consumed the samizdat. In any case, Ali Alexander, this was especially true in the early days of Stop the Steal. I watched a whole bunch of them. This was in November, second week of November, when right after the networks finally made all the calls for Biden, Ollie Alexander was hosting nightly periscopes to discuss strategy of what is to be done next. He was joined by Mike Cernovich, who has
Mm.
sort of tried to wash his hands of his own participation in the Stop the Steal movement, but he was very famously promoting rallies and protests for at least the first month in December. Jack Posobiec was on a number of these as well. So just like the whole, a bunch of your fave far right superstars were there. But Ollie Alexander's like when he gets on a roll, especially when he's doing it solo, they get biblical. Like,
Oh, yes.
it does not take much prompting to get him to start spouting about the like God raining hellfire down upon all of the miserable sinners, and yet somehow Ollie is also directing the hellfire himself. He sees himself as a great man of history, as a central character in the growth of fascism in America. And while he engages in, let's say, some hyperbole about how much impact he has had and his own importance and his own abilities and everything, I don't think he is entirely wrong. If you look at the path that conservatism has taken from the moment we elected a black guy, and the rise of the Tea Party, he's been there every step of the way. A bunch of Republicans decided that this one guy would be very valuable to help, get the youths to start voting GOP more. And so they paid him to do things. And he was right there in the Breitbart era of the far right. He wasn't ever, published on Breitbart, and he's not a written word type of polemicist or propagandist. He's very much I will show up and give the word of the Lord to the people. I will bring the manna from heaven and kind of thing. He's a verbal propagandist and not a written word propagandist, but he was very much a part of that. As we said before, he ran into trouble with some allegations of financial impropriety. There was a truly delightful WordPress type era blog called Breitbart Unmasked, where you can still find a lot of an extensive detailing of this stuff. But like I said, when that movement died down and Trumpism began in 2015, that's where he went to. And if you want to read more, if you want a really in-depth article about where he's been in the movement, I'm going to recommend Luke O'Brien's story and the Huffington Post.
Right.
The headline, I think, is how the Republican Party made Ollie Alexander, or it's something to that effect. But what Luke does a great job of doing is showing that this isn't just some guy who hopped onto social media and gained a good deal of power within the far right, that the institutional Republican Party was there working as his handmaid in every step of the way. Ted Cruz was involved. Like I said, all the Tea Party people were involved. Roger Stone was certainly involved. This is institutional Republican power elevating this person who, if these allegations are true, is guilty of some very, very, very serious and awful crimes, which, again, a lot of these same people at least had heard rumors of and didn't seem inclined to do anything about it.
And when you talk about Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec, you're talking about people who made a name for themselves politically through Pizzagate, which was all about arresting the cabal of pedophiles and eventually kind of morphs into QAnon. And they had to have heard this. Right?
They had to. Oh, they clearly had to have known. I mean,
Right.
Look, in any political movement, oh boy, is there going to be so much gossip. That's what people do in political movements. They gossip. They gossip about who's in and who's out. They gossip about who's cheating on their wife or their husband and secretly hooking up with people. They gossip about who got plastered and said some embarrassing things at this, really, really, really overpriced cigar bar that they all went to. That's what people in movements do. And it is, regardless of political valence, regardless of belief system, regardless if you want to talk about the noble and true and glorious members of the Democratic Socialists of America or the vile groypers, gossip is a huge currency. They had to have, to a certain degree, known. And honestly, either Ollie had too much clout for them to be able to do anything about it, or they didn't believe it, or they didn't care, or you know what? It's really difficult to act on in any movement accusations of improper behavior. Like it takes things like the shitty media men list often to bring these things to the light. Like, you know, again, there is another self-defined social group, again, journalism, which had a whisper network that went around for a long time, and it didn't go. If you want to look, if you want, there are plenty of things to criticize like these guys for, especially because the hypocrisy is so glaring. But I do think people, you know, keeping their mouths shut and sitting on their hands when they start hearing about this is that's the norm. But yeah, they all had to know. Oh, that clearly they all had to know. I would be stunned if they didn't know.
Yeah.
And now it seems like they're all running away from him as fast as they can. You mentioned Mike Cernovich. He's disavowed him. The New York Young Republican Club has a statement out disavowing him. Gavin Wax and his bunch have just walked away. Everybody who can is just, no, we've never heard of him. Never heard of the guy.
You know who hasn't, though? You know who hasn't said squat?
Who?
Our buddy Prylasek.
Oh.
Prylasek hasn't said anything.
Really?
Jack Prylasek. Or maybe he has and I missed it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point.
If you, it's hard because if you look at his Twitter feed, it is logarithmic. It is just an endless.
I know.
Posts. He is a true poster. He is always posting and trying to get a sense of what he's thinking about, cares about, or find any one particular thing within a mighty river that ceases not is very difficult to do, but I don't think he has. And my first thought is, you know, could be loyalty, I guess. Could be he doesn't want to get involved. Could be he believes that everybody else has already said what they're going to say and his disavowal doesn't do anything. But I think let's say it's very interesting that he hasn't commented on this.
Well, it is interesting that we ended up here because Ali claims he has a file on everyone. He claims, and he might release it, and he might, we're gonna expose you. And then Milo apparently.
I realize this is an audio only medium, so me pulling faces probably doesn't really. It's not something you might pick up. But I am raising my eyebrows to the ceiling with every muscle I have in my forehead right now. Like, yeah. That's another reason why people might not want to take a stand here is because, again, vis-a-vis all the aforementioned gossiping, they've all got dirt on each other. They're all collecting files on each other.
And Jack was a nobody. Like, I guess Ali had made a name for himself, like you said, 2010, 11, 12, and Jack shows up 2015, 2016, and is a nobody. And when you're a nobody, you got to hustle.
In 2015, he was still angry Game of Thrones fan on Twitter.
Yeah.
Again, we're going into deep lore, but before Jack Posobiec decided that he was I don't know what he calls himself now, a pundit or a reporter or whatever, or before he decided, you know, constructing this entire fictional identity for himself as someone who should be listened to about anything, he was just running around getting extremely mad about Game of Thrones going woke. That was how he got online viral hits. I mean, they weren't describing it as such, but like he was screaming about that. He was screaming about Marvel movies being woke. He was a conservative cultural commentator under the username Angry Game of Thrones fan. And then, of course, you know, at the Republicans at various events and the RNC, he starts sidling up to prominent white nationalists and throwing 3 parentheses around tweets because there's clearly money to be made there. So yes, so Jack has and again, I'll defer to the SPLC's, you know, extensive reporting on this. He has a long history during that time, especially in 2016, 2017, 2018, of collaborating with white nationalist and far-right fascists, both in the U.S. and abroad. Like he's an internationalist. So. Also, just as a note, I've had people who are native born, like Mandarin speakers and can speak fluent Cantonese, like listen to that. And like, it's not good.
Yeah. He claims to be fluent. And yeah, he claims that he did. He spent a little time in China. So apparently it didn't take.
I'm not going to name the person, but someone who I'm an acquaintance with who is. I made them listen to it. One, they were very mad at me for doing that. They were like, why is this dead-eyed, ferret-faced person important to you? Why were you subjecting me to this? I mean, look, Richard Spencer, by the way, the dead-eyed thing, Richard Spencer has commented on how Jack freaked him out. So that's not, I'll defer to Richard's evaluation here. But I made them listen to it. I was like, I'm going to play this 10-second clip. Is this person fluent? And they said, no, that's ridiculous. No. So it's just another thing, like when he would put former CBS News in his Twitter profile and make stuff up. In any case, yeah. So Ali was of a higher status than Bumblejack at that moment in history. And so who knows? Who knows if he has anything? Who knows if he's posturing? All of these people are inveterate liars. There is no reason to take a single thing they say at face value, but maybe he's got some dirt.
It's hard to know what was going on. You talk about how often Jack is posting, and like the Wayback Machine, the archives tweets and all this. And Jack posts so often that it doesn't even archive all of his tweets because he's just going and clicking and retweeting and commenting. And I feel like there's got to be more that this guy did that we just didn't get a record of, but who's to say? Right. And maybe Jack doesn't know what they know.
I have a feeling I'm speculating. I have no information, no reporting. I'm just guessing. I have a feeling whatever he knows, it's something that's not necessarily directly connected to politics. I have a feeling if there's dirt here, the only dirt that's going to harm, that would cause any damage to these guys' reputational value is like what happened to Ali, where there's scores of messages floating around of activity that people from across the political spectrum uniformly deem awful. It is something like that. So my guess, and again, I have no idea, but if you put a gun to my head and ask me to guess, I guess whatever dirt that Ali has is probably something along those lines. Because again, like there's no like, well, like, look, if photos came out of any of these people, dressed in full stormtrooper uniform and throwing up Roman salutes, no one's going to care.
No, not at all.
They'll say they were kidding.
Not do a thing.
They'll say they were young. They were kidding. Something like that.
Yeah.
They were shit posting. They were being an edgelord.
Ha ha, lib. You have no sense of humor.
Exactly.
Which is why, honestly, I find it kind of ironic and, in its own way, a little bit sad that the thing that booted Milo from this gravy train is incredibly tame compared to the stuff that comes out now.
Yeah, it's a whole different world now.
Like in 2016, when the audio and the video from Milo appearing, I think one was the Drunken Peasants podcast, another one was when he was appearing on, it was either Rogan or Rubin's show. This was a stock joke that Milo was telling at the time. He did it a lot. The stock joke was about some priest, is that he learned how to, pleasure people orally thanks to a priest.
Right.
Like it's like something. That was a joke that he told. And then the Drunken Peasants show, he went a little further and he started saying something about how, well, in the gay community, that when young men, often gay men, are isolated, often there are ways that, older gay people will interact. The sexual activity, like part of it is true, is that for younger gay people, finding a community of older gay people that they can talk to and relate to is a huge part of the process of coming out and learning to accept who you are. That part, absolutely true. When it gets into predation, no, that is bad. No, bad. And Milo didn't sort of make a distinction between those, but that's what he was saying. Compared to the things that we hear now, I don't think anyone, like, if that happened now, I don't think anyone would really blink twice, even within the context of the entire far right going into a trans panic and like reenacting the gay panic to and satanic panic at the same time. Like, I don't think that would cause him to get kicked out of Breitbart. I don't think that would make him lose his book deal. I don't think, or disinvited from CPAC, all the things basically excised to the point where he's, doing home shopping bits on a militant Christian shopping channel. Like it wouldn't have gone down that way these days. So I wouldn't say I feel bad for Milo.
How could you?
I think it's the kind of thing that he probably feels a great deal of resentment about. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Or feels like he has gotten unjustly given the short end of the lollipop.
Yeah.
Fuzzy end of the lollipop, short end of the stick. You're mixing your metaphors, Bob. God damn it.
I think we're in agreement, though, that unless there are actual criminal charges here against Ali, then he's going to be back.
Apparently there are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
He's going to find a subsection of the right that doesn't care, or they're going to hate Milo more, or they're going to hate Nick Fuentes more. Like, somebody's going to find him and find a use for him.
I don't have my finger on my pulse of like the Groyper movement and all the spats that they've gotten into to really, like, maybe you guys have some more insight about how they're dealing with this. Because I certainly, again, I've seen a lot of posts by people who are mad at Nick for essentially turning a blind eye to all this. That part seems clear, that Fuentes certainly knew, at least according to the screenshots that have been posted. Not like I'd expect a 24-year-old like white nationalist to to do the right thing here, but that apparently has pissed off movement fascists. That certainly didn't go over well.
No, it's been called out multiple times, and he's getting criticized for it. But also, one of the people that is accusing Ali, or is wrapped up in the scandal, and who allegedly sent these text messages to Ali, is still defending Fuentes. It's Smiley. He's still responding to people and defending them. And why in the hell he still wants to be part of Nick Fuentes and America First, and why he's doing that, I don't know. But there's a lot.
And the amazing part about that is that Smiley is now, as of just right now, getting criticized by Nick Fuentes for like, well, why'd you lead him on like this? Why'd you send him those pictures?
If we're all being honest, everybody knows what they're doing. With regard to these stories, when Lance, who is probably a bisexual, is flirting with Ali, and Lance is 17 and Ali is older, and Ali's interested in a teenager, which is wrong, and Lance is trading his sexuality for a political favor, we all know what that is. We've all seen that before. And many people in politics or other industries have participated in that. And it shouldn't happen. But it does. It's wrong. It's wrong that you have people that are using their position and status for sexual favors. It's wrong, especially when they're homosexual. It's especially wrong when they're involving minors. And it's gross. It's also wrong that whether it's women or it's boys, that they would use nudity or their sexuality to try to get a leg up professionally. That's also wrong. And I think that, by the way, at 15, 16, 17, I think you know what you're doing.
Blaming the victim.
Yeah, so now it's the 15-year-old kid's fault.
Blaming the underage victim.
They absolutely are
playing the GOP's hits, man.
Absolutely
That's some Freebird stuff.
What was he wearing? What was he wearing? Smiley?
So he was asking for it. Was he dressed provocatively? Did
absolutely.
He go down the wrong alley at night? Okay. Thanks, guys. I mean, why he would do that? Well, because there's no future for Milo is not going to leave a movement of young boys into the far right's vanguard, and Ali certainly isn't. I mean, for better and absolutely 100% for worse, like Fuentes is the only game in town for all these guys who shit posted themselves into a fascist corner. So he doesn't really have a choice. Again, that would be my guess. I don't have any proof. I'm guessing here, but what's there to do? I mean, one path would be to renounce all of this entirely, take every DM and email you've got, find a well-meaning reporter and give them everything. And by the way, Smiley, if you are watching this, my DMs are open and my contact information is on my Twitter bio, and you want to talk, I'm available at any point. I'm happy to hear anything you want to talk about with regards to these people. But I think he's making a calculating decision about how to handle this. I doubt it'll work, but you know.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak and pretty dark.
If I wanted to believe that there's a way out of this for all of these guys, and I have to, because it's too awful to contemplate the alternative.
Right.
Well, like you said, they can't even get a job at, the local grocery store or Walmart because no company wants to be associated with these people. So, yeah.
Just to pull back a little bit, the things we did in our teens and early 20s, they're bad in varying degrees. we didn't fall into fascism, but
No.
they're embarrassing and regretful and shameful and stupid because that's what teenage boys do. They do stupid things. They say stupid things. They behave in ways that often have life-altering consequences. But thank God none of them were captured and saved forever on the internet. I mean, that is just, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the dumbest thing I've done. And, granted, none of it, it all pales in comparison to this. But there are embarrassing, awful things that I've said and done. And I am blessed to be old and washed enough that none of it was captured up for posterity, and it wasn't even like emailed about. We weren't emailing each other about that stuff. It just happened. It got relentlessly talked about at school and gossiped up at the wazoo, and you were made a pariah, and that was the end of it. But it was forgotten in the balance of time. And it wasn't going to it's not like you purposefully tarred and feathered yourself forever, which is what these kids are doing. But I have to think there's a way back even with that. I have to think there's a way for all of these lost boys that followed an absolute shithead racist Robin Hoods. Not Robin Hood. Who am I thinking of? Pied Pipers. Sorry, out of this. Not Robin Hood. Robin Hood was good. Pied Piper luring. Got it.
Right.
In any case.
Yeah, there's got to be a way back for this.
Maybe their Catholic faith is what's going to save them.
Yeah. The Catholic Church. Cool.
Yeah, they
awesome. Organized religion.
Speaking of pedophile scandals they don't talk about, right?
And they want to go back to a traditional version of the Catholic Church where none of this stuff ever got talked about.
Hey, I got a segue right here. I got a transition.
Okay.
Speaking of wanting to go back into a revanchist past, the 19th Amendment.
Very good. Very good. Bravo.
Smooth and cool as the other side of the pillow.
Indeed. They keep talking about this lately. The 19th Amendment. They want to repeal women's right to vote. This is so ridiculous that it's hard to believe that they're talking about it, but they're definitely talking about it. Yeah.
I forget where it was a kind of thing that, what would be the origin story of repealing the 19th Amendment and denying the vote? I couldn't for the life of me dig this up and get a definitive, inciting event for who was the one that started pushing it. But I have certainly watched, again, shame to me. I have certainly watched a number of podcasts and Twitch streams in which largely female even.
Yeah. I know.
Hosts. Again,
I know Ann
Isabella
Coulter
Moody is one of them. And Coulter has been one for a long time. And that was the kind of thing she would say as trollishly when, in between Bill Maher appearances. But they seem sincere. Now, to be clear, there is no, the Constitution in this polarized political climate.
Get you a CNN job.
Yeah. In our polarized political climate. I'm a 30th pundit. It's polarized. Very bad. Polarized. There is no way to pass any kind of constitutional amendment. You could not even get a constitutional amendment saying that dogs are good and cool passed, I don't think.
Yeah.
That would get tied up in committee. It would never happen. So the idea of removing women's right to vote is not something that has any kind of popular momentum or backing, or let alone is going to happen at any point soon. So if they want to get their britches in an uproar, like in a twist, getting mad about this, okay. The reasons for it are simple, because if somehow you were to remove women from voting, well, then, Republicans would win every single election and then be able to rewrite the Constitution to their heart's desire.
Absolutely.
So as a political strategy, sure, I think to make it sense. I think the goal isn't an actual, though, on paper amendment to the Constitution. The goal is just, one, to say outrageous things that will get people to listen. And because a woman saying, take away my right to vote, well, yeah, you're going to smash those buttons and hear why, even if it's awful. He said, raising his hand and saying guilty as charged. And, but I think the other The secondary effect, though, is to try to sort of gently nudge women to stay home. And just if the right to vote isn't taken away from them, well, then they'll act upon that agency themselves and not vote, which again brings us back to the first goal here, which is enacting a white Christian ethno-state and doing it via the ballot.
Yeah, and I think realistically, there are still a lot of women in this country who listen to their husband and vote alongside his politics. I mean, if I'm being honest, there are women in my own family, not my wife, but my parents and grandparents. This was kind of just accepted as the way things are. We're in Tennessee, we're in the South, and it is a sort of traditional thing. So if the men get this sort of license to tell the women either to not vote, or if you're not going to vote with me, then you can't vote, then that does mean less people show up.
Yeah.
And they're fine with that.
There was an excellent Substack post by Sam Criss. I forget the name of his Substack, but if you Google Sam Criss with a K, Kriss,
Okay.
Substack, you'll be able to find it, where he talks about like the reason why all these things are becoming so appealing now, and not just this repeal the 19th bugaboo that they've latched onto, but the Tradwife TikTok videos, which appear everywhere. And that show again with, what's his name? Sovereignty Bra. Sovereignty Bra, who is a co-host on that show, which is just one pickup artist humiliating like women who have an OnlyFans account. And again, the kind of thing that you will see all over your feed, unfortunately. The reason for those is because of the basic principle of a deeply patriarchal run society is that if you limit women's value to being a birthing pod, if you say that women exist only to propagate the next generation, and that is the sole reason for their value, that may seem limiting and dehumanizing and awful for most women, but for a subsection of women, what it does is provide an incredibly concrete set of rules and structures that you can follow. It gives your life meaning and order. And I don't think you can downplay what might seem attractive about a life in which there are very strict rules and very strict orders to be followed, no matter how grueling, difficult, and deadening it might feel. At least it is an ordering structure which provides value to their lives. Natalie Wynn did this. Again, this is a great video. She posted ContraPoints. Natalie Wynn just posted it, talking about J.K. Rowling and J.K. Rowling's transphobia, and comparing the transphobia of J.K. Rowling to the homophobia of Bryant. What's her name?
Anita Bryant.
Her first name. Anita Bryant, thank you.
Right.
And what Natalie does brilliantly is shows that they are absolutely running the same playbook. It is from the things that they say about, I'm just a mother who wants to protect her children, and you are harming them, and you are recruiting them, and you are grooming them, and I am standing up for my rights as an American and a mother. They are lockstep with the transphobia that appears today, and the critics of the women's movement are exactly the same things that J.K. Rowling is saying now. But she says this in her video, and it's again, cannot recommend it higher. Subscribe to ContraPoints, watch ContraPoints. Also subscribe to Did Nothing Wrong, but ContraPoints. It's an excellent breakdown of this about the why would someone think that The Handmaid's Tale is like an instruction book and not a work of fiction. There are legitimate reasons and fears that it plays into, which I don't think should be downplayed. It's the reasons why people are attracted to all kinds of fascistic and hierarchical societies, even if they are oppressive. It's because at least that's an ethos, man.
Yeah.
And it's a simple one.
Yeah, it's an ethos, man. Right.
Say what you will about the tenets of Margaret Atwood's world of I forget the name of the country, but like say what you will, but like knowing what the rules are, knowing how to achieve success in those rules, knowing how to break those rules, that is appealing. And for women who want to go back to this, I think that's exactly what they're hopping into. And yes, the role of women has gotten vastly more complicated and more difficult. Women's liberation has not in many ways made things easier for women. It has just made the needs and the demands and the strictures more difficult and foggy and harder to navigate. I say this, of course, as a woman myself. So, look, I'm a good ally, but so I'm trying to say.
Well, and there are women who want to stay home and don't want to have this career, and it does not appeal to them, but they also sometimes feel like they have to.
Right. For women who just want, like, raising kids, it is harder than any job you will ever do for those non-parents out there. It is harder. Woman who does that full time, no one is downplaying the difficulty of that job or just wanting to just have that job. It's when it crosses over, when it stops being a choice, is when things get scary and frightening. It's a choice that can and should be respected. And I think again, I can only speak to the, lefty circles that I run in. If someone says that's what they want to do, they're not going to be looked down on for it. They really are not. There are economic realities in which in some situations and in some cities, like having one husband as the breadwinner and one person as the child getter is actually cheaper and more like financially beneficial.
I've known teachers who quit for that reason. Yeah.
Because they just, like, if you're living in a big city and you yourself do not have a high paying job, whichever parent it is, the father or the mother, or the father and the other father, or the mother and the other mother, whichever party is not making enough money compared to full-time daycare and after-school activities, sometimes, it's about the money. So for whatever reason, someone might make that choice. Again, I can only speak to the worlds that I operated in, the evil Brooklyn, in like latte sipping media circles, of course, kombucha drinking,
fellow Antifa communist,
Antifa super soldiers. Among we Antifa super soldiers, it's like, there are reasons why that would be. It's the removal of choice is when it becomes terrifying, and what that removal of choice indicates, and what the society that they crave comes back to. Look, I even get why, like, all of these dinguses posting like Bronze Age pervert and all of these horrible memes, or spending money to like irradiate their testes because they believe it'll improve their testosterone. I understand what I feel like I understand what the appeal is and why they're turning to that. Life these days is so much less ordered, complex, and understandable. And what fascism does better than anything is provide those answers in simple, easy to read form with like instructions and everything that you can follow and do it. It's why I like cooking so much, you see, because if you buy good ingredients, you find a good recipe and you follow that recipe, you get good food. And if you make it for other people, those people are happy. They never question your motivations for making that food, or your stylistic choices, or your reporting perspective, or difficult, cloudy debates about art and aesthetics and all those things. No. You cook food, you do it right, people are happy, and thank you, because it's simple and clear. Like fascism. Cooking is fascism, is what I'm saying, and that's what.
Choices are hard, man.
Choices are hard and often have unforeseen outcomes, which are terrifying and can never be anticipated.
No, definitely.
Except when, making a nice omelet. But I'm not sure how we got to cooking. I've utterly derailed this podcast. I apologize to everyone listening.
No way. This is great.
But it's like, it's really weird. And again, to go back to my old buddy, Tim Pool, the female guest that he had on, all believe this and this about this. He had an article on his website from his former producer, who has since left the program, directly and derangedly, like, saying that not only, like, well, if we can't ban all women to have the right to vote, then only women who give birth to children should have the right to vote, because women who don't are not contributing to the great glorious future fatherland, and therefore have no stakeholders when we ascend to the Godhead. And so then only women who give birth to kids would be allowed, which I guess it's terrifyingly incoherent and awful.
The one question I have about all of this is, like, how do they ever expect to win another election with this kind of stuff out there? I mean, women, at least the women that I know, sure love being told that they're vote for us so we can take away your right to vote. They sure love hearing that kind of thing. And I really find myself thinking, like, how do they expect to ever win another election while women can still vote?
I think they have given up the ghost on actually persuading anyone of anything. I think the mantra of the Republican Party for the foreseeable future is a pure, unadulterated power grab. It's voter suppression. It is taking control of state legislators to, if they can't suppress enough votes, straight up overturning the result in any and all states, which only by the thinnest of margins didn't happen already in 2020. I think it's entirely undemocratic, and I think it's like the way that Christopher Rufo gets people online to spread his message by saying, like the worst comic book villain saying, here is my evil plan that I plan to do evilly, and here are the evil steps therein. Let me bullet point them for you. Which, like his tweet about, critical race theory from back in 2020, I think, when he was like, we're just going to have that mean everything. And that got aggregated by every pissed off, pissed off reporter I can imagine, and then embedded in thousands upon thousands of, or hundreds of articles. And I think that they realize that just stating the evil thing they want to do works as a delivery mechanism, and it works as a signaling device to the true believers. I think on some level they have to know that these ideas are not popular at all. No. Like, leave aside the whole thing about how when you present even the bog standard liberal democratic platform to Americans of voting age and strip away party affiliation, most democratic positions are more popular than conservative ones. It's by fairly large margins.
Oh, yes.
People want reduced spending on the military, which the Democratic Party doesn't want, but people want that. They want a social safety net. They want single payer health care. They want, help with child tax credits. They want all of these things that are, basic, fundamental New Deal era Democratic positions if you tell them to them without saying where they came from. Let alone fascist, ideals. Like, we're all going to be wearing, all these guys saying, like, look, we're manufacturing armbands. We're not sure if we'll need them, but they're here just in case at the ready. It's a way to get the liberals mad and talking about it, and to signal to true believers that here's what they are. So they don't care about persuading people. They really don't.
And meanwhile, you've got Kevin McCarthy with his latest proposal for the debt ceiling cutting food stamps. But nobody really notices or pays attention or talks about it because we're fighting 18 other battles, culture war related or adjacent. Yeah, it is remarkable. I feel like two things I know for true with Republicans right now is they are all chasing content, and they definitely want power, and they want more power, and they'd love it if that converged, but if it doesn't,
the Republican Party stopped being a political party around when Trump grabbed it by the throat. The only way to view the Republican Party is to look at them as influencers. They are online influencers and content creators. God, I hate that expression so much. God, I hate it. But that is what they are.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you apply the influencer logic, I think it's a lot easier to see why they do things and how. It's because the only goal is for an influencer is to attract more followers, likes, retweets, engagement. And the way to do that for all kinds of influencers is reflecting the needs of the consumer back at them. So that's what they do. They have found a percentage of the American citizenry, 30, maybe, I'll say 25, 30, somewhere in that range, more terrified and angry and armed to the teeth. And they are going to tweak the fears and the resentments and the paranoia of that group. And that group, being as fearful and rage-filled as they are easy marks because they are blinded by those self-same fears and desires. So that is what they are doing. They are constantly feeding their own fears and paranoias right back in their face. And if it doesn't work well enough, they'll A/B test it and tweak this fear. So it might be, it'll be critical race theory for a couple of weeks. That kind of, it defeaters out. And then suddenly, but there are trans kids playing sports, and we're going to go absolutely to the hilt on that, to the point that there was a video this morning of Ben honking Shapiro this morning, saying that local municipalities could ban men wearing dresses at all. That would be legislation that could be passed on the local level because it's degenerate or something like that. So that's what you do when you people get satisfied with one thing or it doesn't work, you up the ante and you feed them a more terrifying version and you keep tapping that exact same dopamine hit again and again and again. And once that nerve goes raw, you juice it up a little. And that's what all these and they will do it by making, their constant streams of podcasts and social media posts and things like that, or going on Fox News to create clips that are ready to be used on podcasts and social media posts. But if you think of the Republicans as influencers, that's the way that they function. And it can't really work in a national election or even really in a lot of Senate and congressional level elections because voters do in the fullness of time get a glimpse of these crabbed gremlins that they are putting up for elected office. And they're saying, no, we don't want a 2-minute video of Blake Masters lovingly fondling a gun that he makes sure to let us know was built by the Germans in a desert.
The weirdest political ad you will ever see.
Yes. Unbelievable. It's like they made an instructional / training video for FBI profilers and said, look at this. That's what the serial killer looks like and acts like.
They put a lot of money into that guy. They really sunk money into that dude. Wow.
But yeah, Peter Thiel, he wrote checks hard for that guy. So it's okay that they keep doing this because, again, just to circle back, they don't plan to persuade anybody aside from just like in K-pop, influencers don't really want to tell sports writers who are into Springsteen that they've got it wrong. They don't care.
Right. And instead of trying to win anyone over, we see the latest bit of news is they're trying to get voting booths off of college campuses. Why? Well, because college students are voting Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did in Wisconsin en masse. They really, really came out and voted. And
they don't want that.
Yeah.
They definitely don't want that. They can't win on those terms.
Voters suppressing voter turnout has been a Republican. It goes back to the Southern strategy. That is again, that is not new. For the last 50 years, Republicans have known that the way for them to win is to get their diehards to vote as hard as they can and to stop young people, stop women, stop people of color, stop Juden from voting, and that's how they win elections.
Yeah.
Sorry, I promised to stop doing German accents, but Judenmaus.
What you're saying earlier, I wanted to ask about the Lebensraum and the living space that they're after. And I mean, it sounds like they're reading off of Nazi pamphlets. Honestly, with a lot of this, with who we talk about and what we're dealing with, people kind of ask, well, what do we do? Or how does this end? Or where does this go? And we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. And I think right now we are in that stage of dealing with the lone wolf, the random acts of violence from extremists who may, take it upon themselves to do something. But again, does that help or hurt them? Or does that instill enough fear in the left? We just don't know where it's going. I'd love to.
Well, look, I'm not an activist and I'm not a political strategist, that's for sure. So as far as what people should do, it's the same old saw. Act locally. If you have time to volunteer, register people to vote in your town. I think one noble thing that people can do during a dark age is just to continue telling the truth.
Yeah.
Look, I lost faith a long time ago in the ability of anything I report or write to have an impact. And again, for all of you listening along, I'm making some air quotes right now. So. I never look at anything I read or report in terms of impact. It is monks during the dark ages time. It is, I am going to make sure that there is a record of true things somewhere so that when humanity hopefully does begin, the slow arc towards justice again, there will be a record of what was said and who did what that is true. That's the way that I, when I'm depressed about all this or feeling utterly hopeless, which happens a lot, I say that is the job. The job is to have a complete record of true things, which, has always been the job of journalism, is to say things that are true. Here is a true story. And at its goal, that's it. That's it. So I say to anyone who's listening, it's like, what can you do? There are community groups organizing in every single part of this country. Find one thing that you care about. You can't do everything. Is it climate change? Is it voter registration? Is it outreach programs to at-risk kids? Is it LGBTQ crisis centers? Is it suicide hotlines? I don't know. There are certainly no shortage of fires burning everywhere, in addition to the literal fires that are burning everywhere. So, especially if you're in like California or something like that, pick one. Everyone's lives are busy and we're all working harder than ever. Find 1 or 2 hours a week to volunteer. It will speak to other people. It will also has the extra added benefit of making you feel better. It makes, rather than, remaining in your room and staring at a screen, which only makes all of us feel worse. So what's going to turn us out of it? You ready? I'm going to get esoteric here, guys. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Prepare yourselves emotionally and spiritually. I'm going to quote the Japanese poet Issa, and I'm going to quote a haiku of his, and it's snail. Climb Mount Fuji, but slowly, slowly. That's my advice.
That's great.
Wow.
Sometimes I think it's inchworm. It might be inchworm climb Mount Fuji. And again, if I've misquoted the poet Issa, then, I'm going to hell. But the sentiment is the same, I think, regardless of your translation.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Find something you care about. It'll help. How much? I don't know. Maybe we cannot. Maybe there's nothing to be done about this wave that's about to crash down under us, but do your part. You'll feel better. It'll make you feel good about yourself. I need to do it more. I'm telling that. I'm telling myself that as much as anything.
Yeah.
I'm not preaching.
We're already feeling guilty here. So yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good advice.
Well, that's the role of the Juden. So make you feel bad. That's why the house Jew is here, to make you feel guilty about it. That's good. It's good that you feel guilty.
Robert, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today.
This is
gotta end right there. That's it.
That's a great event. That's a great ending right there. So yeah, you've been wonderful. This has been a lot of fun, very enlightening.
So
you're great, man.
Thanks so much, guys. I don't have any articles out at the moment, any new stuff. I've got a few things that are in production. I'll be sure to. You can still find me on Elon Musk's fanfic site, otherwise known as Twitter. I'm there at BOBSAIETTA. I'm sure I'll still be there promoting all of my stuff when it's a horrible abandoned ghost town and there are nothing but like tumbleweeds and cat turd too, like roaming the halls. I'll still be there. So you can find me there. And again, I say this, here's something that I said in a couple of podcasts, and it's still very much true. If you think I'm one of those horrible, evil lefties who are out to get you, and you really disagree with everything I say, you know what? Slide in my DMs, and if you're nice, I'll talk. I'll talk to anybody about any of these ideas, and I will give your arguments, feelings, and grievances a full hearing. If someone disagrees, literally, I am inviting you to do a DM slide, but you have to be nice.
Fair.
You have to be nice. You have to follow like Robert's rules. You have to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
If you get mad, then the conversation's over. But I'll talk to anybody. So yeah,
well, that's great.
Awfully magnanimous offer there, definitely.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks so much, and we appreciate it, and we definitely need to have you back on.
Oh yeah,
soon.
This is a blast. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks so
really
much for having me, guys.
Take care.
Take care. Thanks for listening to the Did Nothing Wrong podcast. If you want to hear more, you can go to didnothingwrongpod.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at James, the word 4, and the letter M, all one word, and Grizza BJJ, Grza BJJ, as well as DNW Pod. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember, everyone mentioned did nothing wrong.